Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally's loud radio. That's about the order of operations. And in fact, I would like you to begin your notebook doing the order of operations right here, and the one that's for semester 1. This is the one that has the table of contents. All right, so notice I put in my table of contents order of operations for 9/2/2020 on page 4. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to update your table of contents. But we're going to be talking about order of operations, whatever the date is for you, and whatever page you're on. So go ahead and get that set up. All right, order of operations. Now, if you remember that mnemonic device that I was just singing a song about, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally's loud radio. That's going to help you with the order of operations. Some people call this PEMDAS. PEMDAS is another mnemonic device to remember the order of operations. All right, so write down in your notebook the steps for the order of operations. Step 1 is parentheses. And it's actually any grouping symbol. Could be parentheses, could be brackets as well. So parentheses or brackets. Step 2 is exponents. All right, see if you get step 3. Okay, so we've got, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally's loud radio, or PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents. Think in your mind, what is step 3 in the order of operations? Some of you are going to get tricked here and get it wrong. Step 3 is not multiply. Step 3 is multiply and divide. So multiply and divide is actually in the same step. Now, that's where the loud radio part comes in. If there's multiply and divide in the same problem, you have to go left to right. So that's the loud radio, left to right. Step 4 is add and subtract in the same step. So if there's adding and subtracting in the same problem, once again, do them from left to right. Okay, we're going to now practice some problems using the order of operations. I'm going to erase this, so if you need to pause the video to get this copied down, pause the video, make sure this is all in your math notebook, and let's practice some problems using these order of operations. Okay, we'll start with an easy problem. 3 plus 2 times 6. 3 plus 2 times 6. Okay, see if you do it mentally in your brain. What is the answer? 3 plus 2 times 6. I'll bet you some of you think it's 30, but it is not 30. Okay, you have to use the order of operations. Also, really big and important in this lesson is that we're not going to use this equal sign and put the answer over here. We're going to start to do this kind of like an algebra student would do this. We're going to bring the work down step by step. So for this problem, there's adding and there's multiplying. So think of, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Are there any parentheses? No. Are there any exponents? No. Is there any multiply or divide? Yes, you have to do that first. Okay, so what does this equal? 2 times 6 is 12. So you bring your work down. You bring down the 3, you bring down the plus sign, and you bring down 12. Okay, so now we've done the multiplying and dividing. Is there any adding and subtracting? If so, you've got to do that last. So we're going to do 3 plus 12 last. That equals 15, and that's the answer. You might want to box your answer, something like that. This next part, I don't want you to write this on your paper, but I want you to visualize this. When you bring your work down step by step, it kind of creates a triangle like this. And so that's the way we want the work to look, is to come down and get smaller and smaller and smaller until it's just the answer. Let's try a longer example for the order of operations. Okay, let's say we have 100, take away 5, times the quantity of 20 divided by 5 times 2 squared. Okay, so take a look at this problem. We've got 100 take away 5 times the quantity of 20 divided by 5 times 2 squared, or to the second power. Now one thing you might hear is when I get to this 5, I say times. So when there's 5 and there's parentheses, there's no symbol. This is 5 multiplied by that. So 100 minus 5 multiplied by whatever this is to the second power. Okay, what are we going to do first in this problem? If you said parentheses, you're right. Okay, so first is parentheses, but in the parentheses there's two things. There's divide and multiply. Now remember, divide and multiply are actually the same step. So which one do we do first? This is where you go left to right. So starting in the parentheses, divide and multiply, go left to right. Let's do this first, right there. Okay, 20 divided by 5 is 4. Then we multiply by the 2. So what does that equal? Hopefully you know that that equals 8. 4 times 2 is 8. Now you bring everything down. We're going to bring down 100 minus 5 times 8. Where'd the 8 come from? That's what we solved in there. We did 4 times 2, that's 8. Don't forget to the second power. Okay, so now we're done everything in the parentheses. Now we have the answer for what was in the parentheses. So we're done step 1. Step 2 is exponents. This problem does have exponents. So we're going to have to do that step right there. Okay, so that's 8 to the second power, which means 8 times another 8. What's 8 times 8? 64. So we're going to bring everything down. 100 minus 5 times 64. All right, so now what do? Do we subtract? No, because we subtract last. First we have to do any multiplying or dividing. And sure enough, there's multiplying right there. Okay, so now we've got 100 minus 5 times 64. We have to multiply 5 times 64. So go ahead and multiply 5 times 64. If you don't know what it equals, go off to the side and do a little scratch work. And it's going to equal 320. So if this is 320, bring everything down. We bring down 100 minus 320. All right, now, we haven't even got to the unit on negatives yet, but I think it's kind of obvious. This is going to be a negative answer. If you have 100 and you take away 320, how can you do that? You only have 100. Well, it's going to go below 0. So imagine if you're at 100 and you start to decrease 320, you're going to get all the way down to 0 and go below 0. How far negative is that going to end up? If you got negative 220, you're right. So there's a little bit of introduction into negatives, also with order of operations. Okay, let's practice maybe 2 more problems using order of operations just like this. And notice, it's like a triangle. It gets skinnier and skinnier as it goes down to a point. Starts out as a big long problem. Each step gets a little bit more simplified until it's the answer. Okay, let's do another one. All right, let's have 16 minus, let's do 3 squared plus 5 plus 2 to the third power. All right, we've got 16 minus 3 to the second power plus 5 plus 2 to the third power. What should we do first in the order of operations? Parentheses. Okay, what does that equal? 5 plus 2, that's simple, that's 7. So let's bring our work down. 16 minus 3 to the second power plus 7 to the third power. All right, so we're done the parentheses. What's next? Exponents. We've got 2 exponents to do there. All right, so 3 squared. That means 3 times another 3. That equals 9. 7 to the third power. That's not quite as easy. That's 7 times 7 times another 7. Now I know that 7 times 7 is 49, but I don't know 49 times another 7. So I'm going to kind of go off to the side, do a little scratch work, and figure out what that is. All right, now I've got it. It equals 343. So now let's bring our work down. We have 16, then minus. This is 9, plus, remember this, I just kind of worked it out to the side, it's 343. Okay, so now adding and subtracting is in the last step. But what about if there's adding and subtracting? Which one do you do first? Well, if they're the same step, that's where you go left to right. So going left to right, the subtraction is first. So 16 minus 9 is 7. And so now we've got 7 plus 343, and then we'll add those together at the very end to get our final answer, and that's going to equal 350. All right, so there's the order of operations. Let's try one more problem. let's do 6 squared. Actually, this is the quantity of, that means we have parentheses. The quantity of 6 squared divided by 4 plus the quantity of 50 divided by 5 minus 8. All right, let's get the answer to this problem. Now, sometimes I'll ask myself, what will I do first in the order of operations? Sometimes I ask myself, what will I do last in the order of operations? So looking at this problem, what part is definitely going to be last? It's definitely not the parentheses. The parentheses will be first. Hopefully, you know that last will be this adding right there. We have to add last. So it's basically going to be solve this, whatever this is, solve this, whatever this is, and it's going to be that number plus this number. So let's solve this. So we're going to start in the parentheses. Do we divide or do we exponents first? Exponents. So what is 6 squared? 6 times another 6. 36. And then divide that by 4. What does that equal? 9. All right, so this equals 9, and we have to add it to whatever this equals. Okay, so again, we'll go in the parentheses. Should we subtract or divide first? So division comes first in the order of operations. 50 divided by 5 is 10, and then we'll subtract the 8. So that equals 2. 10 minus 8 is 2. So now we just add at the end, because adding is the last step. 9 plus 2 is 11, and we're done. All right, so all these examples should be in your notes for the order of operations. This should be the note-taking guide where you've got the table of contents in there, and you've got all this practice in there as well. So when you get to your quizzes and your lessons, you could use these notes to help you get the order of operations problems right. Okay, Panthers, we'll see you next time.